So I've already said in the last talk that it's not the goal of HAP to present you with this ultimate world view. So in other words, HAP is not based on saying, yes, we know that people have a need to have a worldview that makes them feel secure, so let's give them one, the ultimate one, so they can really feel secure. This is, you see many movements, belief systems out there in the world who claim this. They all claim, we have the ultimate truth. We have the only truth. But HAP is nothing like that. It's not an attempt to define something and say, this is what you should believe for the rest of your life. HAP is simply born from the experience of what it takes to log into this process of raising your awareness. And the process of raising your awareness is a lifelong process. You can continue to do it for the rest of your life. But you cannot define an end goal for it. You cannot define a belief system, a worldview that says, this is what you need to believe. And the reason for this is actually very simple. I've talked about at different levels of awareness. I use the analogy of the observation tower in the forest, right? So when you get to the top, when you're at the bottom, you can't see the forest for the trees. When you get to the top of the observation tower, you're above the treetops, you can see the forest, you can see the landscape beyond it. And you might discover that there is a mountain way over there in the distance, and instead of just walking around in the forest for the rest of my life, I'm going to climb that mountain. But you can't imagine that while you're at the bottom of the tower. So what I'm saying is that as you raise your awareness, you are going to see things you cannot see today. And that means your vision of yourself and of life, your vision of your possibilities is going to change. And really, your priorities are going to shift. So that, for example, you shift from thinking you can attain happiness through outer means, through realizing it can be attained through inner means, and you become more and more focused on creating that inner life experience of being at peace with yourself instead of always thinking you have to get something or do something in the outer world. And so what HAP really will do is it will show you different levels of this path to raising your awareness. And in the beginning, we'll start with very practical things, because for most people, when you find a path to raise awareness, people are very focused on these subconscious programs, these subconscious structures that are running their lives. It's reactionary patterns that cause you to react a certain way. So the basis for all growth is really you become aware of this, and you learn how to overcome this in your subconscious mind. You also need to learn that everything has an energetic component, because everything really is energy, and you need to learn how to deal with that. So this is a process for basically dealing with the mechanics of your psychology, your subconscious mind. So this is the first stage. And then beyond that are other stages of how you can raise awareness, how you can dramatically shift the way you actually look at yourself and look at life. And there are even higher levels you can start to look at. What kind of a being am I? Why am I here? Why am I on earth? And does my life potentially have a purpose that is beyond what I was brought up to think? So there are many of these questions that will come up as you move higher, as you raise your awareness. And that's why HAP is not a closed approach. It is not an attempt to define this is what you should do for the rest of your life. It's extremely likely that you can use HAP for a while, you can gain some advantage of it, but then you will be drawn to something else, some other teaching, some other technique that will come to your attention. And it is not the attempt of HAP to say, oh, here's the program, this is what you should do for the rest of your life, and then you will be saved in the end. That's not the approach at all. HAP is just something offered to you, and if you find it useful, make use of it. In other words, it's not the attempt of HAP to define, here is the ultimate truth about the human psyche. The measure for whether HAP works for you or not is it useful to you? Does it give you something you can apply to improve your life? If it does, you make use of it until you perhaps are drawn to something else. But so in other words, HAP is not a belief system. It's not a religion. It's not a cult. There's no membership here, right? There's no badge you can put on and say, yeah, I'm a HAPper. There's none of this. It's a completely individual, voluntary basis. You study it, you apply it, you get results, you keep applying it, you're drawn to something else, you look at that, maybe you come back to HAP after a while because now you're ready to go to a higher level. It doesn't matter. There's no attempt of forcing you into being a believer, because there's nothing to believe here. HAP is a very practical program. If you apply it, what will be given here, you will get results with very high degree of guarantee. You will get results. And if you get the results, well, that's the reward in itself. It's not, you see what I'm trying to say? There's so many of these movements, philosophies out there that are saying, if you believe in this, if you accept this, then this will happen in the end. HAP is not like that. It says, here are some practical steps. If you apply them, you are likely to get results. So what you have to do is simply be willing to apply it. See if it works. If it works for you, then obviously you can keep going. If it doesn't work for you, well, you find something that works, hopefully. So there is no close-mindedness here. There is no attempt to persuade you into anything. And that's very, very important to realize that, because HAP is pointing to a process that is open-ended. There is no ultimate level of awareness that can be reached while we are here on Earth. It's that simple.